Hi everybody, welcome to the third episode of Bidi Bidi Podcast, a series produced by the Bidi Bidi Media Lab, a collective of South Sudanese refugees that will be sharing with you their stories and discussing the main issues that our country has faced throughout its short history. The issues that we as refugees have been facing back in our country during our migration and here in Uganda as well. The Bidi Bidi Media Lab was created with the support of Arts Everywhere. Bidi Bidi Media Lab also counts with the coordination of GNCST. Let me introduce myself properly. My name is Richard Akim. I was born in this settlement in 1993. I am a South Sudanese filmmaker living in Zone 2 of Bidi Bidi Settlement, one of the largest camps in the world. I will be your host for this podcast, and we will listen to the stories of the people who have suffered the effect of the violent conflict in our country and the problems of the journey that brought us here. We will try to share with you a small part of day-to-day life here in the camp. So for the first time, we can actually start discussing and finding solutions for those problems by ourselves and let the international community help. Thanks for listening, and let's start talking about this big place we now call home.
Fresh clashes have erupted in Juba between forces loyal to the president and those supporting the vice president, renewing fears South Sudan will slip back into full-blown civil war. The fighting in the capital comes just hours after the United Nations warned attacks against civilians and its personnel may constitute war crimes. At least one UN peacekeeper has been killed and a number of Chinese and Rwandan staff injured.
In 2016, I used to work as car cleaner in the streets of Juba, so I could wash cars in the morning and then evening I go to school to be able to support myself with feeding and paying my school fees. While my family was living in Yei, so I was the only one living in Juba. So when war broke out in 2016, I figured out how to reconnect with my family, and when I reached Yei, where I got the sad news, about my father's death. So the family was not living all that in, proper condition. So we are three, me and my mother, my wife and me, now have to make a proper decision so that we can support the young ones. Prices of goods start rising, and at night, people, unknown gunmen start coming to people's door, knocking, killing people. If you don't have money, they kill you. All people were, disconnecting from one another. And boom, yeah, it started. I have to look for somewhere where, I know it's safe, to where I can get peace of mind, where I cannot hear gunshots, and I can sleep up to morning without having a thought of fear, like when am I going to die? The first night on the decision that I made with my mother and my wife, I told them, let's leave the country. We can walk to Uganda, the nearest country from here. Like I knew what was coming at night, when I talked to my mother like that. I went inside, we ate supper, Actually, I can't call it supper because it was bread and water. That was what we ate. So it was 9:35 minutes on Sunday. My mother came running to me. She was confused, running back inside. I just held the hand of my wife. Don't move. My mother immediately started running. My wife wanted to follow her. I told her, don't move. Here, I know it's not safe. I don't know where she's running. So let's wait and check where are the gunshots sounding from which direction so that we can move to the opposite side where we don't hear any gun sounds. So we spent 30 minutes trying to figure out where the sounds of the bullets are and the gun. We started walking the opposite direction and we entered into the bush. I thought that we are the only one. We are only two to wake up in the morning to see thousands of people, children and women, few are men. And now tracing the site of Uganda, we figure out a mountain called Korobe. So we try to locate where Uganda is and how best we can connect Uganda site.
When I was in South Sudan, I was schooling in a certain school called the Yei Girls Boarding Secondary School. At that time when I was in senior 1. When the war broke out, it got us when we are in boarding school, the lifestyle was okay, we are in good life, and we are free at that time with our education. Then when we had the time that the war broke out, it got us when we are in class. We are preparing for our midterm examination. Immediately we hear that information that there's a problem in South Sudan. We were scared in school, and others start crying. Suppose at that right time we wanted to come out of the fence to our parents, because our school is 5 miles from the town. Then our teachers stopped us from coming back home. They told us we have to wait. They're still for investigation whether that information is true or it's lying. Later, our head teacher gathered us and tell us the real information, that at that moment he had information about South Sudan, that there's something bad, there's war break out. So the only thing, they cannot keep us there. They wanted us to come together. Right from that time, we start our journey from school home with other teachers together. The moment I reached home, I got my parents were not at home. Then I tried to ask one of our neighbor. He told me, since yesterday, there's a problem. She doesn't know where my parents are. Then one of my neighbor also went and convinced me she could not leave me alone. According to my understanding, I thought maybe they ran to our village. It was at night. We had one of our neighbor was killed. And then later, one of my best friend, whom even we are schooling together, she was also killed. I was scared. I cried the whole night. In the morning, we start our journey. We wanted to use vehicle at that time. That driver could not manage because the number of people were very many and the vehicle was too small. So she decided not to take us. He could take us the next day. Then at that moment, the lifestyle in the town was not okay. Then my neighbor, that woman told me, we could not sleep that night. So the only thing, we have to start footing. She left everything. She cannot take something. The only thing is she took some small flour that he might reach to a place that we feel hunger and there's nothing to eat, and even she could not have a little money that we can eat to buy something. So she could take some little flour, and we start our journey to come to Uganda. The moment we reached to 12 miles, we reached to a certain place called Morobo. Then we met with those rebels. They asked us, because we are few in number, they asked us why we are moving few. We have to move with a good number, because moving in a few number, it's not okay. Because that time it was at night, they told us to rest in that place. There's nothing bad. If we move a bit, something bad will happen to us. We rest for something of 8 hours. Immediately one of them come and see us and tell us we have to go. There's something bad after some hours is going to happen. We could not have something to eat. Only When we move something of maybe 8 miles or 10 miles, when we get fire, maybe that woman, the neighbor whom we are working together, can make for us some little porridge to take. And for her, she could not take because the flour that she took is only something of 6 cups. She just make the whatever the porridge and gave to us. She have 5 kids, and me we are all 6, because her husband was killed long ago. Then later we reached to a certain place called the Kaya. We also slept there. We got some very many people also who came from South Sudan. We are good in number.
It was in the year 2016, 12th of June, when war broke out in my home country. Of course, it started just in a small vicinity in the central, the capital, Juba, between the two warring parties. So it got to me when I was in my working place. Just in a short moment, I just had some sporadic gunshots in the main urban area where I was working. In the instant of gun shootings, people now begin to run up and down, children crying, women crying up and down, especially those who were in their businesses. So the whole city or the whole town becomes so confused. Just there's a bit of even bombs being dropped in some of the areas. One of the main market square, one of the bombs was dropped there. I sensed that there's a problem. So I just woke up. Immediately we just gave a walk to some other areas, because that time, people cannot move, vehicles are very scarce. And immediately just what I have to do is I have to negotiate immediately very fast. I have to call one of the client who I know him very well to just give him a drop to some other area of where I'll just get safety. So reaching there, things were not so much friendly. The whole area also was in panic. So I and my wife and my 2 children, we have to make a decision whereby I think we have to quit my hometown. We have to walk out from the city, because the whole city is in total political unrest. So what I have to do is we have to make a decision. I have to get my bag, small bit of food. So we have to give a walk with my children. So on reaching some bit of distance out of the city, I happened to join some of the same other civilians who are also in the same arena. So we have to make a joint decision that we need to flee to the neighboring country of Uganda for safety. The distance is a bit very far. So on my way, I've registered a number of challenges, like even food. I ran sort of food, water become a problem. Even people really are dying. Even like me and my children, you find that people are now being starved a lot. We spent almost 1.5 months walking.
I'm someone who is being loved by my grandmother. At first I lived in a village called Lasso. I lived with my grandmother. From there, then my mother came and took me to go to school. So she took me to Yei, and I joined a certain school called Christian Assembly. So from there I schooled there. My mother, let me say, I lost my father since 2006. So from that year till now, my mother is the one doing anything to me, sponsoring me, let me say, like paying my school fees. She was a cook also at a certain school called St. Joseph Lutaya Secondary School. So she could cook there and pay my school fees. Yeah. And also I have 2 brothers, but let me say, the other one is in senior 3, the other one is in senior 4 now. At first they were not at school because there was no one who is supporting them. So we lived in Yei. Our life there was okay. I think that one there we also enjoyed. Then, let me say, when the war started, we could not have the idea of coming to Uganda. But when we realized our neighbors were all coming to Uganda, so we decided to come. at first we don't have the money. I think that the money was less for us to come up to Uganda, so we decided to go first to our village called Lasu. My elder brother, he was a border guy, so he could he picked our luggages and he took to our village. He never even reached the village. From there, guns also started, so we are chased into the bush. From there, we ran alone. I even ran alone. I was not even knowing where my mother was. They were also separated from me. So from there, I kept her number, I think. So I picked one of a phone from a certain man. And then I called them. They were in a certain village called I forgot that village. So that neighbor of ours decided to take me to where my mother was. So from there we also slept there 3 days, I think, and then we came back home. We realized we are missing our elder brother. So he could not even come home for 2 days. So what we decided was we have to go to our village. Maybe we will get him there. So we decided to foot. But we never reached our village. We reached a certain junction. From there. We saw our brother coming. Actually. And then we stopped from there. We stopped him, we asked him, he came without the luggages, he came even without the motorcycle. We decided to ask him where the things were. He said the things were taken away from him. So we could not do anything, we just foot from there to a certain also village called Morsak. From there, we reached Morsak. We were also arrested by those people in the bush. We slept there, we could not eat, but we only ate, sweet potatoes. Cooked ones. We ate from there. So those people because they knew us, they directed us to our uncle's home. So we reached our uncle's home. We got them at home. Also, we got my uncle's wife there. We all met there. So we stayed there for like 3 days also. So when my mother also realized that staying there was terrible, because sometimes you may hear that so and so has been killed, so and so has been killed. So she decided that we should also come to Uganda. When we arranged our things to come to Uganda, we also realized that my uncle's wife has no money to come to Uganda. She started crying that we should not leave her there, we should all be there, or we all foot to Uganda. So my mother decided to sell all our things in order to get the money for us to come to Uganda. She sold everything. Then from there the money was enough for us and our uncle's wife. So from there we came together. That one there, I felt scared, because many people are being killed. Some are being even chased. The kids were being separated from their real parents. Anyway, we got disturbed. That one there, I forgot. We got disturbed. Our car was stopped. Those people were like, they are going to collect all the boys in the car. They are going to train them to have the guns now to fight. So that one there, we were stopped. We all came down from the car. So they started that our bros, actually our brothers, were to join them, to work with them. So from there we also started crying. Now they just saw us like this. They said anyway we should go. We also reached a certain place. They also stopped us. For them, those ones are now, they want the ladies to come out of the car. So that one they stopped us from there. They disturbed us. That day even we slept there. Then from there they also let us go. Okay, when we reached Morsak, I think we only ate sweet potatoes. There was no food. So that one there, due to the situation where you only eat sweet potatoes, you only eat this one thing, Like in the morning you eat sweet potatoes, evening you eat sweet potatoes. That one there, I had the feelings of even going back, at least going back to South Yei. Yeah, going back to Yei, not to continue journeying, because me, I was thinking if we will continue to journey like that, we will now have nothing to eat, because that one was our uncle's family. What if we are to come to Uganda now? What will we eat? Okay, I was like, me, if I reach Uganda safe, the first thing I was planning was to join the school.
Moving out from the town, it was a really very big risk, because when you meet with the soldiers, they'll ask, why are you leaving the town? And the town was total in silence after the gunshots at night. So what we did with my wife is we decide to carry the luggage we can manage to carry, and we leave the one we cannot carry. I told her, since the journey is really so long, we need to put on a light clothes. So we put on our light clothes and we start walking in the area. All we could see was just smoke. People were crying for their loved ones who died during the last night fight, but smoke was all over the town. We went inside the bush and we start figuring out. My wife doesn't know any location where Uganda is, so it was me directing her. It was something that really, I think God was helping us. We start our journey just in the bush, directing to the mountain called Korobe Mountain. When we move some kilometers, I think some miles, we found thousands of people who managed to move at night. And we met with them, mainly were children. It was over thousands of people. It was mainly children and women. When I joined these people with my wife, we looked like a bit different from them. They are like, maybe we are spies who are following them up. We are not escaping. So it was total silence between us and them, following the same route. But we reached where there is no road. The mountain, I was not seeing the mountain. We found somebody who was with his cattle, his cows, and he was just in the bush. So I went to him slowly and asked, I'm trying to look for this location. Can you please help me direct where I can reach to Uganda safely? He helped me, he directed me, and even he told me that he's even going to Uganda. So this is the way. So we start moving again from there. We walked a very good distance, like 20 miles before reaching to the river. So when we got to the river, it was in a savanna forest. The other side was the big mountain. That is the mountain of Korobe, the one I was looking. And when we reached there, we found thousands of people again ahead of us who are camping just by the riverside. And the river was already full. People were not able to cross. And people really looked so tired. My wife, when I look back to my wife, her legs start swelling. She was not able to move. So we start cutting those trees. When we've completely cut the tree down, we start by giving women to cross ahead of us, as we the men stand behind waiting. When we crossed, it was already night. It was dark. And moving in the forest, we could not tell what is the time of the day. But what we could do is, when we are tired moving, we sit down. So when the night got us just under the mountain of Korobe, it started raining heavily. We have no any bed sheets or blankets that we can cover. Things were not okay with us. The coldness was too much. My wife's legs started swelling and swelling and swelling. She was unable to move. So in the morning, we started our journey again. I told her, it's fine. We should not follow these people. They always move on speed that we cannot manage. The only thing you hear gunshots in a distance, and with the reflections of the mountain, you cannot tell where the gun is coming from or where they're shooting it from. But we are moving in a silence where my wife was not talking. Only I can see tears on her face, and in my head I was like, I'm not gonna make it. Maybe we are just going to die here. But still I have the belief that we can reach. If other people can reach, why not us? So when we reached to another community, we found the chief of that community at home, but his area, no one was there. Houses were burnt down, and he was just seated alone. And he started interviewing me. Do you know anyone in this community? Then I told him yes. I introduced my mother. I introduced my grandmother who stays around there in that community. He welcomed us and he directed us. So when we reached where my grandmother was staying before, they had already left and things were not working well now. I was having a lot of doubts if I could make it to Uganda. We reached a certain home where I asked these people to just support me, help my wife stay with them for some time. Let me figure out where Uganda is. I left my wife staying with them in an abandoned home where people have already left. I started working with a group of men who are also going to Uganda. I was left behind, and it was really so difficult for me now, like figuring out there are many runabouts, junctions, and I fall under ambush. I saw people in plain clothes with guns, armed with guns, coming from the bush, start asking me a lot of questions. So when they came to me, start asking me in Arabic, I pretended like I don't know Arabic. I stood when they told me to stand there where I am, and then one came to me, asked me, do you know me? Like, no, I don't know you. Again, another one came, start asking me in a Kakwa, where also I pretend like I don't know. They look at me, then they call themselves aside and say, I think this one can help us. This one, we need to train him. So they decided to take me with them. They built their houses. It was a small 1 meter house where they put only their heads in and their legs out. So I was taken to their camp. In my mind, I was like, if I get opportunity, I'll just move out from here. This is not what I want. So they start giving me opportunities. We could train you to have this type of gun. They start mentioning type of weapons. I even forgot. I don't know what they are. But everyone was carrying a gun. Then they gave me to be their cook. Like, today I'm going to cook for them food. And the general was reading some newspapers. I think those newspapers were old, with many soldiers aside of him. So they made me to cook for them the food. I made for that soldier, that general, the tea I took to him. They start sending me around to collect firewood. The other side of where they have been camping, it's a river. And when you move something like 5 to 10 kilometers away from their camp, you see a UNHCR. So when I continued, like, I'm going to look for firewood as usual, I stayed with them for 3 days. And in those 3 days, I was trying to look for ways of getting out from there. But the place looked really so busy. And when I moved those 10 kilometers, I discovered Ugandan border, where I saw UNHCR and Ugandan soldiers. I moved close, and then I checked. I saw the badge on the one of the soldiers. It was a Uganda flag. I started going back. But now this time I decided to use a different road. Didn't take me so long. 5 hours walk. When I reached back to my wife, I told her I got the Uganda border with a smile on my face. But we never talked the whole journey. She was really so unhappy with me, with the situation she was in. I told her, let's move immediately. These people are really men in the bush. I'm not sure if we can stay here safe. Let's move. So I went to these people who were hosting her. I thanked them so much for keeping her for all these days that I was away. And I told them that we are now leaving to Uganda. So everyone was happy. Say they gave us some flour and some beans that we can cook when we are hungry. So we started our journey again with my wife now. We used that road where I went from, where I discovered. We reached the Ugandan border. Well, this is the end of this episode of this series. Thank you very much for listening to the Bidi Bidi podcast. We really appreciate your attention and the desire to understand the problems of Africa by listening to one person at a time. If you like this type of stories and you are interested in knowing more about what's going on here in Uganda, in South Sudan and other places of the continent, please make sure to follow us on Facebook as Bidi Bidi Media Lab and in artseverywhere.ca. You can also find me on Facebook as Fresh Styles. My name is Richard Akim. Until the next episode, goodbye.